You're watching Goal.com's mid-season review, focusing on the biggest clubs in Europe. Let's talk about AC Milan. Pete, let's be frank, terrible start to the season. Lost a couple of big players to PSG in the summer. That didn't help. But they've turned it around. And another setback recently, Nigel de Jong's out for the rest of the season. So they've got to move in January for someone.
Yeah, perhaps they could move in the January transfer window. But as you said, you know, they did have the teething problems at the start of the season. Max Allegri looked like he was going to lose his job at one stage, having to plan without Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Thiago Silva. Took them a while to find their form, but you know, coming into the winter, they're not too badly off in the league compared to where they were. They had a good unbeaten run, and obviously through in the Champions League, which is key as well. But you know, Nigel de Jong has been key to what they've been doing through the autumn, and to replace him from what they already have on the books, you're looking at the likes of Ambrosini or Flamini. So maybe perhaps there could be scope to go into the January market.
I think Galliani has said that Milan won't be doing an awful lot of business in January. If they do let a player go, they'll bring someone in. I think Robinho sounds like he's heading off to Santos, which will free up the squad space and the wages to make a move for Mario Balotelli, who's their top target. It won't be a permanent transfer, I'm quite sure of that. Milan simply don't have the funds to spend 20-25 million euros, but they can afford his 5 million euros net wages. Balotelli wants to go back to Italy. He's just had a baby. He's fallen out with Roberto Mancini at City, and he's never made a secret that his dream is to play for Milan. He was once pictured wearing a Milan shirt while he's at Inter. So I think if they do anything in January, it'll be Balotelli to come in for Robinho.
I think that'd be a good signing. I think they certainly need a striker. You know, Pato constantly injured, you know, never seems to be able to keep fit. So it is an area I think that they need to strengthen, and it would seem a sensible move. I think that Balotelli at Man City causes one or two problems, and you know, he has his moments with Mancini. So to go back to Italy would make sense to me. I
think he's a very, very volatile character. He probably needs a change, and Milan are willing to take the gamble. And Galliani and Berlusconi made it clear in the past that they're huge admirers of him. They've linked with him pretty much every transfer window. But how much do they really need a striker? Because El Shaarawy's on absolute fire. He's Milan's top goal scorer, and he's really stepped up to replace Ibrahimovic this season. But
with Ibrahimovic gone, Pato gone, Robinho potentially going, you need to have backup as well, don't you?
Yeah, and as you say, El Shaarawy has emerged from beyond that shadow, which was Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I don't know how much one player can dominate the landscape at a club, but certainly it seems that El Shaarawy has really found his comfort zone since Ibrahimovic has gone, and he leads the scoring charts, obviously, in Serie A. So, yeah, but you always need capable deputies, and Gianpaolo Pazzini has not really provided that cover that Milan need. So maybe they could be looking at a little bit of firepower up front.
I think you make an interesting point there about how, you know, someone can dominate a dressing room, even like Ibrahimovic, for instance, and some of the younger players can then flourish when that character goes. You know, Ibrahimovic's a strong character that dominates on the field and in the dressing room by all accounts. So when he goes, sometimes the younger players then can have an opportunity to flourish and an opportunity into the first team as well.
But when you talk about characters that dominate the dressing room, that's why if I was Milan, having covered Man City a fair bit, that's why I'd be worried about bringing Balotelli into that dressing room, because he's caused nothing but trouble. And Jose Mourinho says Balotelli's the most difficult player he's ever worked with. He's just so difficult to handle. He's so unpredictable. He's an undoubted talent, but as Roberto Mancini's been saying, and Roberto Mancini is like a father figure to Balotelli, and even he hasn't been able to work him out, hasn't been able to get the best out of him. And Mancini said Balotelli's throwing away his career.
What about Allegri then? How can he handle Balotelli?
Well, I don't know if he'll have any problems handling Balotelli. He's had Antonio Cassano, Robinho and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and he's had them all in the same lineup. So, you know, I think when you have three egos like that in one 11, then, you know, I think maybe Balotelli might give him a welcome headache. But, you know, Allegri's had his fair share of problems this season. You know, he's in many ways lucky to still have a job. And I think if Milan's expectations from boardroom level were any higher than they are, he would be out of a job. But I think they're probably just thankful to be in touch, I would say, with the Champions League places in Serie A and also through to the Champions League knockouts. Because when you look at that, certainly from a defensive point of view, when you're talking about a team that boasted Costa Curta, Maldini, Tasotti, Baresi once upon a time, and you know the likes of Zapata and Yepes, they're inept. So I think they'll muddle through for another 6 months till the end of the season. If they're back in the Champions League, they may make a mark again in the transfer market.
All right, thanks guys. That's AC Milan covered. For all the news on them, and indeed all of the transfer stories throughout the next couple of months, go to goal.com.